Warm greetings, everyone. On behalf of Friday Waters, I invite you to another session of Friday Waters book reading session. The sessions are organized with the help of WforW Foundation, and the idea of Friday Waters is to fill the Fridays with fun and yet get some interesting and useful understanding and conversations on water. In Friday Waters, we have water talkies on films, documentaries, water reading club, which is today we are going to talk about book, water thesis club, water arts, and meet a maestro. The focus of the Friday Waters book reading session is to bring author and authors, editors, who have written or are in the process of writing a manuscript in any form that is going to come up, whether it is a book, report, comics, on water matters, in order to discuss with them the making of the manuscript and the issues around the subject they have tried to cover. Besides bringing interest in the water conversation, the session will also increase the outreach of the manuscript in the water networks and the society at large. My name is Mansee Bal Bhargava, and I'm from the house of WforW, and I'm also the host of today. And the session today is also co-hosted with the International Association of the Study of Commons, IASC, which is Elinor Ostrom's researchers group. And the session will be also hosted in the World Commons Week, which is going to be in the first week of December and online, where every country around the world, they are going to present their commons issues. Today, in this session, we are going to discuss the making of the book 10 Years of Water Discourse in Bangladesh. And to do the honor, we have Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed and Farah Kabir, who are the editors of the book, and the book is also published by ActionAid Bangladesh. Before I invite both of them, deep gratitude that both of them agreed to do this session. And for Farah, this is a comeback on our session, so welcome back, Farah. And thank you, Imtiaz sir, for finding out time for us. We are also joined, thank you. We are also joined by Tanzia Anzum, who will be also supporting us to do the session further. Before I invite both the speakers, a very brief overview of their vast experience. Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed is the Executive Director of the Center for Alternatives in Bangladesh, and he's also retired professor of international relations from the University of Dhaka. He's a visiting professor at Taylor's University of Malaysia and has authored, co-authored, edited in, I will say, many books. To give a number will be a bit embarrassing actually, with his decades of experience, and has published several papers and reviewed innumerable papers as well. His recent publications, which is very interesting to see, Rights, Rivers, and Quest for Water Commons. Actually, I had reached him to give a solo session for this as well, hopefully sometime after this. Then he has an interesting book on Rohingyas in Myanmar and Bangladesh, looking at violence protection, dialectic, and the narratives of certain uncertain safety, co-authored with Niloy Ranjan Biswas. Another book, Imagining Post-COVID Education Future. So as we can see that he is not really writing only about water or environment. He has also a vast spectrum of discussions around many social, economic, political aspects in circling in Asia. Let me go to discuss Farah, and as I mentioned, it's a comeback for her. Farah Kabir is the country director of ActionAid Bangladesh with over 30 years of experience as a development practitioner with a strong focus on women's rights and climate justice. As a passionate feminist, she is tirelessly advocating for equity, justice, and fairness, playing a key role in global process related to development, climate change, disaster risk reduction, women's rights, particularly women in politics. And she just returned from COP, so it's really very interesting to hear her out on many aspects. She has held very significant positions around the world, just to name a few. Chair of the Global Board of Global Network of Civil Society Organizations on Disaster Reduction, in the Board of Platform for Disaster Displacement, Regional Representative for Climate Action Network. I'm stopping here so that we can have more from the horse's mouth, as we call it. And let us start the discussion on 10 years of water discourse in Bangladesh. And I will share more details in the chat box, and then also request Tanzia to also take charge of the chat box as well. Before we get into the logistics of the book, let us open to hear from both the speakers, editors of the book today, the very idea of making of this book. Welcome both of you to this platform. Okay, who goes first is the question now. We start with ActionAid probably. Go ahead, Farah. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Mansee, and thank you for all the kind words. I think the whole process was coming from a lot of engagement with the communities who live with water, who live around water. And the realization was slowly seeping in that we belong to the water and the water doesn't belong to us. And if that is the case, because if you are in a delta, if you are in a country which is lower riparian, there's either too much water, and with climate change, there is very little water in many places. So we were discussing with Dr. Professor Imtiaz about some of these issues because he goes back to the 90s when they created the Water Manifesto. One thing led to another, and we felt that we should try and develop a museum, a community museum, because water is on many levels controlled by the powerful, the political actors, and the issues of access, availability, and affordability is central to what ActionAid's right discourse is. So the journey started with setting up of the museum, and it's a museum that is set up in the community in a place called Kolapara, Potuakhali, and very unusual because museums have antique pieces or fossil, but this is a living kind of a museum, and it brought in all that. Now, over the years, to keep our conversation, advocacy, and develop knowledge products and innovation, we started hosting the International Water Conference. And the International Water Conference actually reached 10 years this year. And that is when we thought that how do we present all the rich conversation, the discussions, the relationship of communities with water, the intellectual pieces, the development pieces, and the cultural and identity related issues. So there's like we over 10 years were very fortunate to have access to a lot of this, but we didn't want to keep it to ourselves. We wanted to spread it. And when you are working with an academic like Professor Imtiaz is always looking for knowledge products. He says, yeah, this is something we should do together. And so in the end, we decided to publish this book because otherwise it will be lost. The richness, the intellectual leadership, the conferences, the ideas, each conference had its own dynamics and its own perspective, and left us with recommendations, left us with something to take forward. Now, in there were also watershed moments. When we had the conference in 2019, that's when the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of Bangladesh affirmed that all the rivers are living entities. This is the first time in Bangladesh. So there is this is a legal aspect of it, but what it does is it gives rivers a different kind of status and stature, and it is critical when there's so much encroachment, when there is abuse of rivers or water bodies. So we thought this would be a way. And then there has been an aspect of regional advocacy as well. So we wanted to talk about the transboundary rivers and regional advocacy. What are the experiences? Because we have had participants from far, from within South Asia, beyond South Asia, different countries. So it could stay with us who were in the close proximity of it, or we put it into a publication that can be accessed by all. So I'll stop there, and
Okay.
you,
Yeah.
Dr. Imtiaz, can add so much more.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Imtiaz, if you allow me, I will call you Imtiaz Bhai, but also add another angle to it. As a scholarship scavenger, as we are, as scientists, it's always important that we hold on to the institutional memory, which always has a chance to, disappear. How was it when you were offered this challenge to put together a vast, body of knowledge? Over to you. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this conversation. You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Monshi, and thank you, Farah. No, I think it was an interesting journey. As Farah was saying, we really wanted to create a discourse which could be called water centric or river centric. I think it comes very naturally for Bangladesh, given that Bangladesh is known as Nodi Matrik Desh, which
Mhm.
means river centric country. People will always talk about. But over the years, and more so because of the colonial discourse, it became more land centric rather than water centric. I think that was the problem. So when I think ActionAid members, including Farah, somehow they got hold of the South Asian Water Manifesto, which myself, Ashish Nandi, and we had hydrologists from Nepal, Ajay Dikshit, three of us back, I think almost 24 years back, if I am not wrong, 1997. Um, we published this South Asian Water Manifesto, and that was quite challenging at that particular time. The whole South Asia was very land centric, and also did not have the correct understanding of what river was. River was more looked into from an engineering point of view, and not from the point of view of civilization, not from the point of view of history, and so many things. So three of us, one Ashish Nandi is a psychologist, myself from international relations, and an hydrologist. So it was unique that we had three different disciplines, but we got together. We roamed around South Asia quite a bit at that particular time. Went to almost all the countries, probably except Afghanistan. And we sat down to write something, and Ashish came out with this idea that let's go for a manifesto. Let's challenge the whole Western discourse, and the Western discourse that was very much part of South Asian discourse. If you're familiar with Ashish Nandi
Yes.
writing, he will always say that, we got physically decolonized, but not mentally. We are yet to be mentally decolonized. We are mentally still colonized. So idea came from there, and I think when ActionAid got hold of the Water Manifesto after many many years, they came to me and said, can we do something? And I think it was interesting uh, that they agreed. I was quite, I think we were eating uh, some chocolate cake or something. Black Forest, which can excite you, a lot.
But that too
Uh,
in Nepal. That
and
too
that
in
too,
Nepal, not in
it's
Bangladesh.
not in Bangladesh. It was in Kathmandu. They came to my hotel to, just, South Asian Adda. And suddenly, as you know, ActionAid had several projects in South, largely that came out of, different typhoons and floods. So they wanted me to go to South. And I said, look, I'm, just going to sea and to southern Bangladesh would look like I'm going for tourism. So why don't we do something? And I said, what? And I said, what about, establishing a water museum? And as I said, I don't know what they were eating or I was eating. They agreed immediately. They said, okay, let's do it. And they got it done very quickly. And one of the idea was that as we build the museum, there will be a conference, and every year make an international conference in southern Bangladesh, and ActionAid said fine. So from there, I think the journey started. So every year, January is the month. We have been going there and making this water conference. One or two were held during the COVID-19 on online, but otherwise it was in person. But we also moved beyond southern Bangladesh. There were one or two in Dhaka, and also in northeastern Bangladesh in Sylhet. Now, the conference, as Farah was saying, always would have one particular theme that was also decided, that one should have a sub theme. Water conference is fine, but let's have a sub theme in each of these. So there were all kinds of sub themes. And what we did after 10 years was to publish the abstracts only. I have to remind the listeners that only the abstracts got published, not all. We selected the best abstracts, divided them into different sub themes, and published it, as a kind of what you call a historical record, what kind of discourse can take place in South Asia, including Bangladesh. Because a couple of things were very central. One was to redefine water. That was very particular. As you know, when we talk of water, it's always twice hydrogen plus oxygen.
Yes.
Right. So, but again, 3 decades back, myself and Ajay Dikshit, we sat down and we changed the definition of water and made into a South Asian, social science definition, and called it H2OP4, which would be power, politics, profit, and pollution. So that went pretty well for many years. People also came to know that science can have one kind of definition, social science can have another kind of definition. The other big one was to redefine river, because when we talk of river, when we talk of sharing of river, but all the time we talk about water. We don't talk about what river is all about. So that was also redefined, and I tried my best to flag the idea, the South Asian concept, which is Nodi, and which is a very old concept. You will get in Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. You will get it. Nodi will have three components. That is Atta, Pran, and Shakti. That means Atta would be soul, Pran life, and Shakti will be power. Now that also got interestingly to a position where Jayanto Bandyopadhyay, another hydrologist, again from India, very known one, he was writing on his own and talked about that river is not only water; it also includes other things. It includes sediment, includes biodiversity, includes energy. And that made me think at one time as I was listening, and said that, river is webs, WEBS. All rivers will have water, energy, biodiversity, and sediment. So that also created an interesting discourse where people, I think, now have a better understanding that you can share water, but what about biodiversity? What about sediment? What do you do with energy? Can that be shared? So I think it went pretty well. So some of these things were always there, flagging every time, to the point that some of the members of ActionAid were saying, "Prof, you're saying the same thing for quite a while." And I look, you need to hammer, keep on hammering this H2OP4 and webs and all. Very, just a week or two before, I found, I'm not sure from which country. I think he increased the P4 into P8 or something.
Wow.
I forget. He sent me his piece, and he was very excited to work on this idea of of creating a new social science understanding of water. So I believe this is a discourse which needs to be continued. Water Museum is one. This is the first non land centric museum. and I think that also has lots of promises. We still have to work on establishing a big one. But just to end my note on this, some of the countries got excited. One country I know where Farah and myself we had to visit, and that is China. China was very excited to hear this idea of water museum, and immediately got us into to China to talk about it. Took us to Yellow River, which was also very memorable, because normally going to seeing what Yellow River is not so easy. But the boss in the in the Yellow River wanted also to establish a water museum, and now they have. I was talking to them and checking some of the online sites. They have a couple of water museum. They're very fast, as you know. Funding is not a problem for them. But what happened in this whole thing? A lot of other countries also got excited. So I will end by saying that this. Publishing this 10 years of water discourse had a long history, memories, but also it has a bigger future. So it was not just for sake of publishing something. As you were telling me that you have, I think sometimes I think I've overpublished, but you never know, you keep on publishing. So that was not the idea, but the idea was to see what is the water discourse that took place in last 10 years, and from there what would be the next 10 years water discourse. So I think that was the journey which got recorded and which got published and printed.
Thank you so much, Imtiaz bhai. And important, let me tell you, I am also pushing the idea of water museum and managed to convince 3 states in India. In fact,
Wow.
Uttar Pradesh, to my surprise, has also allocated a budget and land for it. And I am not able to push it further, a lot of political, bureaucratic reasons. But Kerala has agreed and Gujarat has agreed to do it, a water museum in Ahmedabad. So,
Super.
as an advocate, but who will do, where the land will be in Kerala and Gujarat, we are yet to see. But let me just do something interesting about the logistics of the book and invite our third guest for the day, Tanzia Anjum, who is a deputy manager at in the Resilience and Climate Justice Unit of ActionAid Bangladesh. She's been working with ActionAid since 2011, initially starting with the resource mobilization team, and she has accomplished with over a decade of experience within the organization and deeply involved in work around climate justice and community resilience. Before I invite Tanzia, I also want to put it on record. Thank you so much, Tanzia, for taking me around when I was a guest to ActionAid in the 2023, no, 2024 River Conference. And we went to see the community water museum, one of its own kind. And I keep telling about it all across the country in India. And very kind of you to take me to many communities across the country. So may I invite you, Tanzia, to tell us about the content in terms of what is there in the book, how many chapters, and also maybe it's a good time that you announce the next river conference information so that if people get interested to join in the next one coming. Thank you so much, Tanzia, and also for organizing this whole event. Tanzia was very instrumental to do it, as I know she has been instrumental in organizing the book. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mansee. Actually, it was really a wonderful experience to work in the whole process of this book publication. And if I say something about this book is actually 180-page long, printed beautifully in 4 colors, and it published in 2025, this year in January. It includes 6 chapters, along with 6 rich and informative annex sections. Each of the annex sections, you can say that you can consider as a chapter, because the annex sections are very informative and very rich. And I am also happy to share with you that this book is available online at the ActionAid Bangladesh website, and I will put the link after my speech here in the chat box, so that people can access and download the book for free. And if I say that about the editorial board, today's speaker, Farah Kopir and Dr. Imtiaz, you and Dr. Ifranullah Hasib and Dr. Samia Selim also work with us, and they also contributed to develop the book, as well as we work together within the ActionAid communication team and Printers House to make the things, to make the publication within the time. I'm not saying that it was a very easy task, but it was. We actually, I can say that we did it very systematically, so that we were able to make it possible, make the publication within the timeline we hope for. So this is the thing, and I want to share that the next water conference is going to held virtually on 2021 January 2026. So just 2 months later, not even 2 months, January is just knocking at our door. So, and we are also calling papers from around the world. So we are happy people from across the world can submit the paper, their research paper, their practice paper. So I would also love to put the link here so that other people can get access and submit their paper. So this is the thing. And as well, I also want to take an opportunity to show a short video. Actually, this book publication was a part of our ActionAid Bangladesh endeavor towards the journey towards the water justice. And besides this, we are what Farah Appa and Imtiaz is mentioning, that ActionAid Bangladesh is doing so many things. Besides this, we have a water museum. We are doing annual water conferences every year. Besides those things, we have different other things we are doing all over the years. And to show a glimpse of that one, I want to show a short video.
Please do that. And I have a very interesting question for you. I mean, I'm very pro youth engaging in this conversation. So there, I have a tricky question for you. Hold on, before I get to the seniors again. Please share the video. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Access to clean and safe water remains a daily challenge for millions in Bangladesh. Many communities, especially women and children, struggle to secure this basic human right. This is not just a crisis of survival, it also creates obstacles in education, health, and livelihoods. ActionAid Bangladesh is stepping up to make a difference. We believe water is a fundamental right, not a privilege. Our Water Rights Initiative is changing lives by encouraging communities to secure their access to water for every individual through sustainable solutions, rainwater harvesting, improved sanitation, and advocacy for fair water governance. We are building resilience against climate change and water scarcity.
কলকাতায় এশিয়া মহাদেশের প্রথম ওয়াটার মিউজিয়াম প্রতিষ্ঠা করা হয়, এবং সেই ওয়াটার মিউজিয়াম প্রতিষ্ঠার যে উদ্দেশ্য, পানি জীবন, পানির সঙ্গে প্রকৃতি জীবন যে সংযুক্ততা, সেটা নিয়ে আমাদের যে প্রচেষ্টা, সেই প্রচেষ্টার অংশ হিসেবে আজকে এখানে আমরা এই বিচে একত্রিত হয়েছি।
এই সাথে আমরা বলছি ব্লু করেছি আজকে আমরা এই সমুদ্রের সৈকতের পার ধরে আমরা 1 কিলোমিটারের মতো পথ হেঁটেছি সবাই একসাথে। আমরা আশা করছি এই নদীর কাছে আসা, একসাথে সবাই মিলে নদীকে নিয়ে ভাবা, এটা আসলে আমাদের মধ্যে নদীর প্রতি সচেতনতা, পানির প্রতি সচেতনতা বৃদ্ধি করতে সাহায্য করবে।
তাই আমরা চেষ্টা করেছি যে স্কুলের বাচ্চাদের মধ্যে এবং আমাদের ইয়াং জেনারেশনদের মধ্যে জলবায়ু পরিবর্তনের প্রভাবটা পানির উপর কি কি ধরনের হতে পারে তা নিয়ে একটা ছোট্ট আর্ট ক্যাম্পেইন করতে, এবং তারই সাথে এই আমাদের এই যে সমুদ্র, এত সুন্দর কুয়াকাটার যে সমুদ্র কিংবা অন্যান্য সমুদ্র এবং অন্যান্য যে রিসোর্স গুলো আছে পানি, তা নিয়ে একটা সচেতনতা বৃদ্ধি করতে।
বিশেষ করে যারা যুব সমাজ রয়েছে তাদের মধ্যে সচেতনতা বৃদ্ধি করা। এবং আমি যেটা মনে করি যে আসলে পরিবর্তনটা পরিবার থেকে আসা উচিত এবং নিজ উদ্যোগে আসা উচিত। যে নিজের থেকে যখন আমরা পরিবর্তনটা করতে লাগবো, তখনই কিন্তু আসলে একটা বৃহত্তর ফলাফল আমরা পাবো আর কি।
Thank you. Maybe I request you to close the video. Now the tricky question before I go to Farah and Imtiaz Bhai again. So Tanzia, how is it to really coordinate in this multi-stakeholder, multi-author, editor, and importantly, if I may use, because I have been also doing this role in many places, what it is to really manage these strong-headed people, to put them in a discipline, putting in them in a time, putting in them in a order, and then, back and forth going this iterative process. As a young person, for me, it's really inspiring that all of you as a team, I know you also have a team, how it is and what are the key learnings as young people you take from this kind of experiment, because you are not literally directly writing the book, but really you doing the micromanaging to get the book out as a baby, So what was your experience as a team?
Definitely, it was a wonderful learning. And I definitely
When you look
believe
back, how was it when it was happening?
in this case, I really want to convey thanks to Farah Appa, because she is guiding us all over the time. And she was saying that, oh, okay, when is your next plan? How you are doing? So it makes me to make myself disciplined fast, so that I from the very beginning, I made a plan. Okay, when I want to get the book on our hand. So Farapa was saying that when you are want to book a book on your hand, I said that it must be before the conference. She said, no, you have to make it 1 month before, so that it will be possible to get it in on time. And it's really we just made the plan that we will publish it by October. That actually it was 2-3 months before the conference, but the thing in reality, it was everybody is very busy, and to make everything on the cut of the date, it's not a very easy thing. So when we make the plan from the very beginning and we are trying to strict on the plan, it actually help us that, okay, at the beginning of the January, the book is with us. And
Very interesting.
This learning is really helpful for me. It give me the learning that if you make the plan properly, systematically, and stick on that one, it will help you to to achieve your objective.
Interesting, because I also have 2 chapters in the annex, and I know the round of deliberations you had, even with people like me who tends to be trying to be disciplined all the time, and I was late in both the submissions. I am aware of it, and I can apologize you for that. But I know how it must have been for you as a young person, trying to push all of us to be disciplined and doing things on time. So, and hats off to all the young team out at ActionAid, of course, with the leadership and guidance from seniors. Let us go into the book now, and I would like to invite Imtiaz Bhai, who has already started talking about that it is important to look at the past and the evolution of the discourse to really find out something what's going to come in front of us in the coming years. What do you really see over the roots of change in terms of last 10 years, what is documented? You gave us a glimpse of it, from the definition of the water to definition of river. Where are we standing today, Imtiaz Bhai, to look forward to the next 10 years?
One thing is clear, that when we talk about discourse, there is always politics behind it, and
Yes,
we need to be very we need to be aware of that politics. If we are not aware of that politics, we will not be able to get things done. Now, one of the problems that we have in South Asia, and I believe some of the uh, you know earlier colonized countries, is that we are heavily dependent on the Western discourse,
yes,
to the point that we have forgotten our own, the civilizational heritage, the concepts. As I was sharing, the very concept of Nodi is much more powerful than the concept called river. So we need to mainstream this concept of river. If bazaar can be used, throughout the world, which is much more comprehensive word than market.
yes,
Market has only an economic dimension, but bazaar has a social, economic, political dimension. So if bazaar can be mainstreamed, and it has been mainstreamed in big way, I see no reason why Nodi should not be mainstreamed, because, as I said, it has Atta, Pran, and Shakti, and more importantly, the webs fits into that. Now, river is very much very myopic, and also very distorting, because the etymology is where the water arrives, and that's why we talk of riveria. So it has a different meaning altogether. It's more water centric, not sediment, nothing to do with biodiversity. So this task has to be done by us. If we, from non-West, what you call world, if we don't bring our concepts, because keep in mind that some of the civilizations that we talk about, whether it's South Asian civilizations or African civilizations or even the Chinese, they are much older, and had a longer history. So that is where I think we need to work on. We need to make knowledge very indigenous, and there are concepts that people understand very quickly. And once we do that, I believe our respect for water, respect for river, will become something very normal. Keep in mind that all the rivers that we have in South Asia are gods and goddesses. Where are you going to have that? And the respect is still there. Whatever regime has come, the gods and goddesses have remained.
remain.
So the point here is this has some value, but somehow, unfortunately, some of us who probably, I don't know for what reason, don't want to go deeper into our roots. So once we do that, and I think this water conference allows you to do that, in different ways. And of course, the very fact that innovation is one particular thing that you need to bring about. And the point is, you may not agree with a lot of other things, but if you can discuss, maybe at one point in time we are going to have a far richer water discourse which will help the rest of the world. I think we need to make the water discourse central to our task, so that the rest of the world can also benefit. I don't think we should have a mindset that the water discourse will come from somewhere else and we will just follow. It doesn't work that way.
Okay, interesting. Farah, may I ask you a question from we have chapter on inclusive water solutions, stakeholders' roles and participation, because that's also very close to your heart, and also everyday engagement of your life probably. So, what kind of state we are at this moment, and what kind of aspects the book has really tried to cover through various authors' work in there? Because Bangladesh also stands out very clearly in terms of doing participatory water governance to some extent. What has been your experience over the years, I mean, decades now, in your case as well? Can you shed some light on that chapter? Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, water as a common resource has been abused and mismanaged. And those in authority, there is a hierarchy around it, and there is the whole the practice and the discourse is how you control water. We always hear about water management, water control, but not coexistence with water. And of course, I mean, the local community, the indigenous community, they believe in the coexistence with water, but we have not given them that space and the ability to discuss rivers in their terms. And today, you know, it's like it's going in a circle, and people are now starting to come to the table with how important it is to listen to the indigenous voices, how important it is to appreciate the way water was recognized as a common resource and shared, because now it is about control. And it's also become, in the capitalist modern developed world, it has become a resource which you control, you package, and then you price it. So it's not as the availability or affordability aspect, accessibility aspect of it is seriously missing. And when we do talk about water in present world, it's about how difficult it is to access it, how women, there's a gender dimension to it. There is
Yes.
definitely an issue of how far the woman has to go or the girl has to go to get access to water, and how difficult it is. And then, you know, with the increase in temperature and drought, this is becoming even, you know, the complexity and the difficulties are on the rise. Absolutely, right? And we don't appreciate it, and the gender dimension has led to this being deprioritized, because we still have patriarchy working. We still have, it's a world where men are in the so-called leadership, and therefore they make decisions or they take on projects, mega projects, but they will not invest in a well or in taking care of the river, right? They're much more interested in mega projects or connecting lines and providing water to your home, because that's where the profit comes. That's where the infrastructure projects are possible, and multinational corporations or the development partners would be interested. But small indigenous or rivers with the community, it somehow doesn't, it's not as sexy and attractive as the mega project. So there has been this issue, and that is why we have been trying to push the grassroots centric approach. And if you take the grassroots centric approach, then it becomes more about respecting the ecosystem and also being inclusive, and also looking at water as a common resource. So, we published during the 6th conference, you've already mentioned rights, rivers, and the quest for water commons. This of course, has an angle about transboundary and the geopolitics of it, but it's also about how important it is for the community and sharing. And I think with the scarcity now, with the temperature rise, climate crisis, existentialist crisis, people are starting to go and try and look at water and understand, and how you make the connection with the SDG goals or your annual plans or the whole Paris Agreement, climate agreements by parties, by governments. There is an effort, but it is not, I think it's not sincere enough. It's still lacking the political will, because the geopolitics is more discussed from a fear dimension and about power dimension and control dimension, without really understanding that we are all affected. If we don't have water, there's no alternative resource to that, and we'll all be affected by it. So that understanding is still slow in coming. And when you look at it, the localized part of it is missing. It's still centralized. And this is what we have tried to, bring out in our interactions, in the discourse, in the publication, that there has to be a stakeholder role and participation, which needs to be inclusive. And we will continue doing our advocacy. What has happened now, what I have found, because I have started to understand, conceptualize, and engage with that water-centric approach, that there are other communities, there is a global movement around it. And the best part has been the ability to engage with indigenous communities. And then you
Yes,
find out that civilizations that have harnessed water have thrived. And you still have those systems. If you go to Iran, if you go to Sicily, you will have the Katan system, which was how the water flew and how, and it survived 2000 years, right? But
yes,
our water projects don't even survive 20 years.
yes,
So this is where we are coming from in terms of that. And Water Museum was a space, it's a concept, it's a platform, and it also has a huge educational dimension to it.
yes,
Because if you see in the video, we want to engage the youth and the children. You were talking about the youth in terms of coordinating the seniors. I think the youth have a greater challenge in trying to influence the seniors' mindset and change the policies and bring in
absolutely.
investment and engagement in this area.
Yeah, you put a very important point here, and I'm always fascinated, as I said, about the youth working. But there is also a very good component in the book on women, and I must also take pride to share that I actually made a paper in or a chapter in the book on time for Women's Power Resource Council or Water Resource Council in every country, by the woman, of the woman, for the woman, where I was trying to bring forth the Water Resource Council of Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce in India, very similar sister body in Bangladesh. Where do we stand in terms of women in water as per your understanding in Bangladesh? Because when we see at the ground what Tanzia took me around the field, in the field work, women were quite enthusiastic because they are concerned and also the most affected as well, whether it is health or taking care of the family. But when we talk about the being professional in the water sector to do work, where do we stand at this moment? Because in India, we are also struggling to establish this whole council and also expand the council. But do you have something like a mass or a association where women voice can be put forth uh, and can be heard by, or probably where do we stand? Just taking next question to you.
So the professional bodies, associations, are still dominated by men.
Hmm.
Whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or any professional body. And as you have to also realize that men are not engaged in ensuring the water on the table, or the water for the family, or water for cooking, or so that linkage, connectivity has not been established. But if you talk to members of the chamber, or if you talk to business people who have ready-made garment and they're producing apparel, they can have a conversation about water and how it's polluting the water bodies, because the water flows from the factory. And that conversation has come after environmentalists and all of activists have said that you're polluting, the dye, the chemicals. This is so that level you can have a conversation. But what the Water Council, Women for Water Council aspires or would like to take forward has not been understood yet. So we have it's an uphill struggle. And even in the profession, hydrologists or environmentalists or water experts, there are very few women there.
Yeah.
So it is picking up. The subjects are coming, and there's universities have opened up departments where they have environment and water and related studies. But for that generation to come into positions of power and policy making, we will need some time. Unfortunately, we don't have the time, because if you if you watch what is happening at COP30, the conversation
Yes.
about all reports are indicating we are so far from 1.5 degrees Celsius. We've gone over 2.6. And even if we were investing in renewables and making a just transition, we would struggle to keep it below 2.5. But we don't have much choice. It's not like, I mean, some leaders are saying this is a hoax, this is, white climate conversation. Some are saying it has no relationship with poverty and growth, which is, and I know that is a very wrong interpretation, because if I am at the front lines of climate change, Vietnam for the last 6 weeks have had one flood after another, Philippines and so on. We have had floods in parts of the country where they have not seen a flooding in the last 40 years. We're seeing part of Bangladesh becoming dry and there's drought. Salinity increase in coastal areas has caused so much health issues, particularly for women. They don't have access to fresh drinking water, and then it's led to hypertension. It has impacted on the reproductive. And this is not something I'm just saying. We've done these
Yes.
ground studies, and we've found how the health and climate change is impacted. And we're not just, we're doing active research, but there are academics, there are research institutions who have found out that this is. And therefore, in Belém, this time they announced the Belém Health Action Plan. So we
Wow.
do get every COP, we get Dubai, we had the loss and damage announcement, Baku, we had something else. In Belém, it has come, the declaration, but the money doesn't flow. The decisions are not in favor of that transition or just transition, and therefore we still have an uphill struggle going on.
Interesting. We'll talk about the uphill struggle as well, but then let me just give you some breathing time to frame yourself for the Kuakata Declaration and reach to Imtiaz Bhai to talk about some blueprints of tomorrow. And before I invite, I also wish to request him to take the very idea, because you also started talking about politics, power, and then within that setup also Bangladesh succeeded in having river as a living entity, which India is still not even in a discussion phase. There are some noises here and there, but I see that we are far. Ganga was partly declared, so some organ of Ganga will be nature or not nature, and then no organ is nature, so no part of Ganga is going to be living entity. Where we stand today, and the book has actually have some transformative policy insights into it as a blueprint for tomorrow. And I'm again bringing your opening remark that we can see, or we can at least envisage what is there for us in the coming years. Maybe is that what the blueprints for tomorrow we are talking about, or are there some also suggestions how and what should be done? What's your take on this, Imtiaz Bhai?
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. One thing we have to keep in mind that humans are not only thinking being, humans are also creative being. We have enormous power to create. That's fundamental. Um, I have a different take from what Farah has positioned on the issue of women. Um, Mainly because binaries sometimes distorts the capacity, the innovation capacity. Take the example of the Iraqi British architect Zaha Hadid.
Hadid.
Take her example. She has been into mega projects. She doesn't do any small projects, including the Beijing airport.
Yes.
She has designed. Uh, so mega project per se is not masculine, but look at her way she has done. There is a, if I can use the word, there's a feminist touch to her architecture, or a aesthetic touch, which is very much soothing. Let's put it that way. In the if we can use the word, more relaxing, and sometimes people say her architecture is more motherly. That's the word that has been used by critics. So my point here is, it's innovation, creativity on the issue of water also. If we need to mainstream a women-centric understanding of water, we have to be very creative, and the mind has to be uh, you know innovate rather than fall into what I would say a Western paradigm, or Western understanding of the world. Let's take the case which Farah is very much involved, and that is climate change. And I've been critical of this loss and damage thing. Already 20th COP, I believe I forgot the number of COP they
30.
had.
This time was 30. Yeah,
Oh,
30th.
30th. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's 30 years. 30
Oh my
years, but
God.
loss and damage concept has come only in the last 4 or 5
Yeah,
years.
last
And you're
years,
very
last year.
right, because
Okay, what about
the
you see?
international West and the dominating powers
Right.
of this world will not discuss compensation. So we had
Yeah.
to
Yeah. So
navigate and find loss and damage.
yeah, my problem with that is, asking others, that I feel, as a personal note, I don't think that's the right way of looking at things, of solving the problem. I think best is to create very, a kind of a structure for innovations where creativity would flow. And some of the countries have done, actually, they have managed water very well. They have cleaned their rivers, their lakes, which were polluted. They have done it without any support from anywhere. Uh, those examples need to be mainstreamed. Unfortunately, we have not done that. So to go back to the question that you have raised, I think what requires is a more global cooperation. Now that is where we are in a interesting times, that because the world is moving to a multipolar world, and there is no way to stop that. There's no way, because we had decolonization. We can't go back to colonialism. Keep in mind, and we can't also change the journey, the capitalism's journey to globalization. So what we have, aspirations that is very much there in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia. The aspirations that have come up cannot be managed by a unipolar system or by a bipolar system. So this multipolar with different polars, but the world has never seen this multipolar world. So I think it allows us, those who work on water, to look into different civilizations, to look at the different innovations, not to get stuck in one particular discourse, and more the merrier. We hardly know how some of the African countries, some of the innovations that they have done superbly, I think, in some respect. We are not really aware of some of the innovations of cleaning the river that has been done in China in particular, that has also not been flagged, again, for political reasons. Look at the solar energy. They are now number one in solar energy. That's incredible. So I believe, if we uh, increase this interaction, and the technology allows us to do that. It has almost become very common to have hybrid, conference now. So you can save, funding is not an issue. You can use your technology to connect, but just by having conferences will not do. What you need to do is to create courses around this discourse. What is the alternative discourse that you have? What is this water-centric discourse are we talking about? So if we can have certificate courses or diploma, some of the hybrid forms that we have, and make this understanding regional, global, of course also local, that much has to be there. Then I think we can reach to a position where some of the innovation that I'm talking about, the tremendous creative part of humans, can be mainstream, and one can actually learn from the other. So I think we are moving to an interesting world, a very interesting world. It has not matured, and that's the reason we have a lot of tension and a lot of fear. But I believe, and I'm hoping that this new journey to a multipolar world would make humans live a life together rather than the alienating and the polarized life that we had in the 20th century, and also I would say in the early 21st century. So it looks little bit problematic at this stage, but the way things are moving and way the human aspirations have come up, I'm quite hopeful that humans can make a difference in the coming days.
Oh, that's quite a nice way to put it here as a futuristic, because it has to be optimistic also for the future generation as well. We are actually coming close to the last round of questions, but let me just see if somebody wants to ask question or comment. Maybe it's a good idea that actually I invite Anup, if you have something, and also introduce both Imtiaz Bhai and Farah to Anup. He was also our speaker at Friday Waters Thesis Club, working on the transboundary. I also want to inform you that I wish to present this time in your international river conference the transboundary, the transaction cost in transboundary cooperation, while bringing the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark case where I'm doing the new project now. Anup, would you like to interact with these two wonderful editors? Because I really like your work. He's doing his PhD. So we'll not keep his introduction here because he's been already here. But if you have any comment or question, because you belong from Bangladesh, so maybe you would like to interact with these wonderful people. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm very happy to see Professor Imtiaz Ahmed because I am one of his fan. Though I mean following his work a lot, even along with Ajay Dikshit and Jayanta Bandyopadhyay. So I mean, as a young student, I mean, doing PhD on water. I mean, I started my water journey. I mean, just giving a quite a bit background because that's will help you to understand. So, what do you understand when we started reading about the water, and I specifically went back to the history of the water or history of the river. So we read water in multiple genre of history. For example, the political history of river, the economic history of river, the social history of river. As Professor Imtiaz Ahmed rightly pointed out, what is the alternative discourses? But if I ask, I mean, I don't have any courage to ask questions to Dr. Professor Imtiaz Ahmed, but I want to hear from him that don't you think that we need more alternative history to understand water, to shape our knowledge production? Just a simple thing. Yeah.
He writes very well, by the way, let me tell you, and I'm going to encourage him to also put his paper in your future conference now.
Shall I respond?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay. No, thank you, Anu, for the question. The point is, well, one, I think history has become his story. That's one of the points.
Yes.
You know, so
There's also
uh,
patriarchy into it, by the way, and it's written by winners.
exactly. Yeah. Although the etymology is different. If you call itihash, then it
Mhm.
becomes very problematic. And we are more familiar with itihash than history. But the point, yes, I definitely will agree. There are series of histories. Unfortunately, for us is that we got stuck into the colonial history. And then you're familiar. Um we were invaded by outsiders for many many years. Keep in mind, the Mughals were here for 300 years, 330 years. The Turks, 330 years, the Sultan dynasty. But they never had a Ministry of Education. They never bothered us on education. They never had a education syllabus. But the English created a Ministry of Education, uh, and that made a difference because they wanted to make us English. So they had their own syllabus, own science, and they let our science go down the drain. They demeaned whatever we had, and that needs to be recovered. I totally agree, and that is where I think the water discourse has a good chance of getting mainstream, because as I said, Bangladesh, whole of Bengal is a water centric country. We always say Nodi Matrik Desh. So if it is a water centric country, what is that? How do we mainstream that? That is where I think the Water Museum, has a bigger role to play in terms of creating a new kind of knowledge. So I agree. You need to get into that, and quicker you do, quicker you dive into our own history. I think the chances are that you will be able to recover, because, as I say, lot of hydrologists did not know that the word Nodi is a very old one and goes back to Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Lot of serious hydrologists did not know that the origin of Nodi is a very old one. So that allows you, to think differently. Now, you need to create a kind of a structure. You can't let it go once. Just for once having a conference or seminar will not do. You need to hammer it through certificate courses, through diplomas. Maybe at one day there will be a faculty of water futures. Some of us, we work actually on water futures. I published a journal special issue for Elsevier on South Asian water futures many years back. So you need to look into water futures as a kind of a central theme, and that has to be mainstream. So it's a big task, because a lot of hydrologists are critical, a lot of engineers, those who are traditional knowledge, what you call knowledge professors, they would find it very difficult to get in new ones. But since you are into it, and PhD is a good one. I always say PhD is a long essay you write, but don't get hung up with PhD. It's just a degree. Uh, sometimes you get hung up and you get stuck into PhD. The moment you finish writing the PhD, I will tell you, just forget the PhD and write something which will make the indigenous knowledge come out from of thousands or hundreds of years of negligence, I would say. If that can be done, I believe we will be in the right direction, and you'll be producing. You'll be, will be very productive to humankind.
That's very interesting, because that is also coming out very clearly in the conclusion and footprints for tomorrow, actually, in the book as well. I will actually start the closing part of the conversation today with going to Farah with her closing remarks, and also telling us in very few lines what is this Kuakata Declaration, and your closing remarks.
Thank you, Mansee. The Kuakata Declaration came out in the third conference. So we wanted to, take this whole issue of water-centric thinking, and reminding ourselves that fresh water is only 2% of the world's water, and how we have to respect that. As I started by saying that we belong to the water, and respecting and that, and so bringing and making a connection with the human rights conventions, so the declaration was about, it came as a result of participation by different stakeholders, and it has a South Asian river water management and initiatives kind of a dimension. So there is an internal aspect to it, how we want to respect water, how we live with water, how we govern water. I hate the word water managing, because the moment you say
Yes, me
managing,
too.
it reminds me of putting the dams and controlling its flow, and but people understand management, so that is there, and so we have to have a discussion. And I think my journey has been that by connecting with international global water museums, one has seen the richness of the discourse and the experiences out there, and how different countries are trying to work and live and do research with the indigenous communities, their practices, and also conserve and preserve those. There's an effort. And having been part of the water museum, what one has seen is there's a lot of educational material. So Anup, if you connect with the International WAMUNET and you go to its website, you will find a lot of resources coming from many parts of the world. And it might be of use to your learning process. But end of the day, it is geopolitics. It is politics in national domestic politics. It is, it is so centralized that we can't agree even at this point that it needs to be localized. It needs to be with the community. So those are some of the challenges that we are still facing, and our journey has to continue. We have to keep this discourse alive. And we have to, continue with research, with seminars, webinars, policy advocacy. No one aspect will be enough. It has to be a multi-dimensional approach, working simultaneously and taking it to the level where people who are making decisions agree. I just wanted to say that I'm not an anti-mega project, but mega projects do not reach the common person. That is, but sometimes you make up on the bridge and it helps us to travel, instead of 8 hours, we reach another destination in 3 hours. But it has dislocated people. It has taken the local community away from its livelihood. So if it is planned in a manner where you do take into consideration all these aspects, and that is something women and a feminist approach does. It is more about caring. It is more about inclusion. However much Professor Imtiaz and I agree to disagree, but there is the feminist dimension to it. So I would say if you're a researcher, look at the feminist discourse, feminist philosophy around this, and that will help in terms of the thinking. So it's not just about, don't picture that only women go and collect the water and bring the water to the table. When she does do that, she does a lot of other things, and she knows how to preserve and conserve. She knows how to take care of her family. But it is important to bring that feminist dimension and aspect, because feminists are talking about inclusion and reaching out to the most as far and as possible, and respect indigenous communities, involve them, and so on. So I think this would be for the future. We have to continue the knowledge exercise, the knowledge commitments. B, the advocacy, and that is there. And none of this will be possible without the innovation. So we have to invest in the innovation. You have to, no idea is a crazy idea. And if it's a crazy idea, the better.
Better. Yeah. Thank you. That's a very optimistic note to even close this conversation today. And I'm also pleased to share and add on what they have really discussed today in my own chapter in there. And as the second chapter in the book, I actually talk about Jal Satyagraha, where I bring the water governance for water justice. And I feel when we talk about these kind of water discourses, we need to really look at the alternative approach as well, which Imtiaz Bhai's organization is talking about, Center for Alternatives. And the way few keywords from this session today, inclusiveness, feminism, and indigenous knowledge. I mean, we have gone past the decolonization period, luckily. River as a living entity, looking at the different discourse on water. These are very important things that we have to keep continuing. And please note that W4W Foundation, through its Wednesdays for Water, Friday Waters, Monday Munching with Women for Water, has been trying to really keep the conversation flowing. That is important, that we need to keep talking about it. Bringing that, let me just announce the future sessions here. Next Friday Waters book reading session, usually it happens once in a month, is on December 26th, and we have a very soft book written by Suresh Madampil. I met him a few months ago. He's talking about water ideas for life. Very interesting, intriguing points. Everyday life we don't even imagine, even as water experts. Then we have next Friday Waters, which is on November 28th. Next week, literally, we have Thesis Club, and we have Cities from Water Edge, looking at the urban political ecology of Ghats. and we will discuss that with a young PhD scholar. Next Monday, which is November 24th, we at 5 p.m. All our sessions are at 5 p.m. IST. We will interact with a very renowned water advocate, I must say, Ghazala Paul, award-winning water advocate from the country. She will discuss her life journey, not about water, but what made Ghazala a name in the water sector. Then next Wednesday, our signature series, which is on November 26th, we go back to our ongoing series on nature-based solutions, or water anxiety series, and we talk about nature-based solutions through community practice. These are the sessions ongoing. We are fully booked until the end of January, which means we are going forth with our sessions at WforW. We strongly believe that water conversations are extremely crucial for water conservation. So we are knowledge seekers, knowledge scavengers. All our more than 400 sessions are actually open access knowledge for everyone to access. You can also access all the water experts. Their pictures are there, so you can reach out to them. We have connections with them. Do reach out to all of them. Over 600 people who have spoken on this platform, making us the longest water conversation ever taken place in the world. And today, actually, in When Friday Waters, we were 125th session. So we are going great until January end, but this is only possible when you have a strong team behind, when we have our speakers who have actually brought more speakers on our platform. If you know someone who is working in water, who is keen to present their work, who is willing to share thoughts, even if it is alternate thoughts, we are very happy to invite them and speak on this platform and make this water education accessible to all. Like Imtiaz Bhai, I have been really advocating for water education as a prima facie education, not a small subject here and there in some university, but having a very serious discussion on water. Let's continue flowing this conversation. Thank you so much, Imtiaz Bhai, Farah Appa. I usually say her Farah, but Farah Appa and Tanzia Anzum for organizing this session and coming to this platform and having this candid conversation. I hope you enjoyed. I enjoyed it, and the conversation flowed like water. So take care and see you soon.